Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm the teacher, Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you're welcome to call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and also on the television at Bell Express View channel 972. You're always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available both from me, the teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from Monday through Thursday, 9 till 10 in the morning, and we are now in our 8th week of our 9-week course. So as we only have 2 more weeks of our course, you definitely should be submitting work for marking. A reminder that the support questions, the ones with a little pencil icon, are not for marking. These ones you can decide which ones and how many to do. You're welcome to do them all. Encouraged to make sure you have enough practice, but if you're understanding a concept, you can also skip them. It's fine if you don't do them all. You know your needs the best. However, if you do need more practice, also totally fine. Just ask me and I'm happy to send you more practice. The key questions, the ones with the little key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So please do all of these questions. Don't skip any of these ones. Show all of your work, your steps, and your thinking. This way I can give you credit for what you do understand, and I can help you for where you're making mistakes or where you don't understand. So then how do you actually submit your work for marking? Well, there's 3 methods. The first method is to scan your work and send it electronically. You can scan your completed work using a device. If you have an Apple device, the Notes app has a scan function. And if you have an Android device, the Google Drive app has a scan function. I have videos that show you how to do this if you're not sure how on my YouTube channel. So you can go check out my YouTube channel and go under the tech tutorials, and there's videos there to help you figure that out. Then once you've scanned it, you can send it either by email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can also send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B Slate Wahsa. Our second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our location, 74 Front Street. We're the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. And then the third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Then your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students are also welcome to fax their work. If you have access to a fax machine, that's totally fine. So if you'd like to connect with me through social media, both my Facebook profile and my YouTube channel are under the name B Slate Wahsa. So you can friend me on Facebook or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications every time I upload one of our videos. All of our radio Zoom classes are recorded, and I post them to YouTube shortly after airing. I also have short videos explaining common math errors and confusing concepts on my YouTube channel, so that can be a good place to go and check out before doing a general online search if you're struggling with something. And as I said, I have tech tutorials as well in terms of things that you might need to use for your course. Just might make things a little bit easier if you're struggling with something technology based. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Either joining me live through Zoom, even if you don't want to talk to me, you just want to watch, totally fine, or watching the replays on YouTube on your own time. If for some reason you don't have reliable internet access and you can't access either of these options, that makes sense. We all struggle with internet sometimes. So just let me know, and I'm happy to send you a copy of the recordings so that you can get the full experience and really set yourself up for success. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. This is my job. I'm here to support and help you. So you can email me at bronwyn.slate, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. You can connect with me through Facebook, using Facebook Messenger if you want to message me directly. Remember, my name there is B Slate Wahsa. And then you can call me at the office at 807-737-1488. My extension is 2209. You can also call us toll free at 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that is the best time to get a hold of me, though I teach from 9 to 11 in the morning, so I'm not available during that time. All right, we are in lesson 18. We just have a few more lessons this week of new material, and then we will be reviewing next week to really set ourselves up for success for our final project. So lesson 18 today is planning a trip. So our learning goals are that at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to plan a road trip and you'll understand the various costs associated with a road trip. You know you've met the learning goals because you can plan a trip using Google Maps. You can determine distance involved in travel, and you can calculate the cost of accommodation, food, fuel, entertainment while vacationing. So when will you use this in real life? Well, everyone deserves a vacation. You deserve a break from life, but we're also developing the skills to attack problems. So understanding what information we need, what information we're missing, and how we can find that sort of information, because problems come up in our life all the time. But first, let's activate our brain with some mental math. I am not a believer in Mad Math Minutes. They set people up for failure because they cause stress and anxiety and don't actually teach skills. Either you are successful because you already are comfortable with memorization and speed, or you fail because you don't. Memorization isn't how your brain works, isn't a strength of your brain. Your brain works in different ways, connects pathways in different ways, and you need processing time. Totally reasonable. Mad Math Minutes are not an equal playing field. So we don't do them in our class. Instead, we talk about strategies that we can use in various situations that work best for individuals, that give you time to process and attack problems in ways that work best for you. Our question today is 264, take away 37, and we're using the strategy of adjusting one number. So we're going to make one of our numbers easier simpler in order to be able to make this a friendly subtraction question. So when I look at this, I see 264, take away 37, and I know because if I'm looking at my ones, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to see, well, I'm going to have to borrow if I were to set this up like the normal algorithm, the normal stack your things and subtract. And that's where most people go wrong. So I'm going to try to make my life a little bit easier and think about, I'm going to take away from one of my questions. I'm just going to think about this and break it up into two parts. So that I'm going to subtract 34 and then subtract another 3. Because I'm breaking up my 37 into something that is friendlier. I'm adjusting that to be 34. And then I know that I have to take away another 3 because I haven't taken away the full 37 yet. So if I do 264 take away 34, that is pretty friendly. That's not too bad because 264, well, 4 take away 4 is going to be 0, and 60 take away 30 is going to be 30. So that's just going to be 230. And that's not too bad. But then I still have to remember that I have this 3 I still need to take away because I want to take away 37 in total, right? So I am going to do that. For some reason, my pen has decided to stop working because this is my life. Let's see if it'll work now. No, it won't. Okay, so, oh, there now. There we go. Just needed a moment. So 230 take away 3. So I can just count down. I can go from 230 to 229, 228, 227. And that tells me that 264 take away 37 is going to be 227. And that's how we can adjust one number to make it a more friendly subtraction problem. Okay, so what do we need to engage? What do we need to know about before we dive into the new concept today? I just wanted to cover a little bit about time zones, because if we're traveling, chances are pretty good that we might be leaving our time zone. In Canada, we have many different time zones. And so this is just something to sort of remember, that this has an impact if you're planning to just how things are, because time zones are based off the fact that the sun, as it rises in the east, it hits that part of the world. It's going to hit Newfoundland and the Atlantic provinces way before it hits British Columbia and the West Coast. So that's why we have multiple time zones. So we still look out, and most of our communities are in the central time zone, though some of our communities are in the eastern time zone, over here. So we know that our time zones also change, or they don't change, our times change in order to try to get enough to shift the light. There's various debates about whether this makes sense anymore or not, but we are currently, right now, if you're listening to this live, in the summer time zone. But then as we come to the beginning of November, the first Sunday in November is when we switch into our winter time zone. We are still in Central Time. That's still the same, but we are just have everybody, most everybody consistently is moving backwards. The only change is Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan does not change. And so their time stays the same. And so they look like they switch time zones but it's really just they don't change their time, which is a conversation that is happening more and more, whether or not we should be changing time or not, if it's really useful to do this hour switch for half the year. Anyway, just something to be aware of as we move, looking at sometimes at flight and train and bus schedules and things like that. If you're planning a trip, or if you're traveling to one of the coasts from the Sioux Lookout area, then you're going to be crossing different time zones. Okay, so what new concepts are we talking about today? Planning a trip. So things to consider when you're planning a trip. You want to consider the travel distance. So how far can you travel in one day? This is going to be dependent upon if you have kids or pets to consider while you're traveling. They cannot sit in a vehicle as long as adults generally. I can sit and drive straight from Thunder Bay to Sioux Lookout if I needed to. That's like 4.5 hours-ish, depending on weather and things. I'm able to just sit and drive that. My legs are a little shaky when I get out of the car, but anyway, if I was traveling with kids or pets, like a dog, I would have to stop at least once, if not twice, at least, if depending on the situation, maybe more times if depending on their needs. So that adds to the length of my day. Also thinking about, is the goal to get to the final destination or to enjoy the journey? So maybe you're stopping, maybe you could travel more in the day than you are choosing to, but maybe the adventure is to go on the road trip and to stop along the way. That's fine, totally fine. You want to just think about that when you're planning. What is the point of your trip? Are you just trying to get to the final place? You want to get there as fast as you can, or are you enjoying the process? So then you want to consider fuel cost, accommodations, both on the road and at your final destination. You want to consider food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. You know what you need. taxes. There are different tax rates in different provinces. We have to think all the way back to our unit 1 where we talked about taxes. And so if you're traveling across Canada to various provinces, the taxes are going to be different, something to remember. And then entertainment. What are you going to be doing? You want to plan for that if you're going to do different adventures. There's admission costs to go to the zoo or to go whale watching or to go to an amusement park. Whatever you're doing, you want to think about the cost of admission and any souvenirs. So are you going to be buying things? Are you just going shopping? Are you going to go to special places that you want to buy something that is unique to that place? This summer, I took my kiddo to the Toronto Zoo and we needed to buy him a pink flamingo that he now carries around with him every day and takes him to daycare every day. That was something we needed to plan for, that we were going to find something probably that was going to be essential to a 3-year-old. And he remembers that. That's how it connects him to that adventure and that visit with family. So for lesson 18, there's no support questions. It's a little bit of a different type of unit or lesson. So you walk through the instructions that it gives you and you're going to hand in all of the questions because you're planning a trip through lesson 18. So we're going to take a trip and we're going to use Google Maps to sort of help us. You don't have to use Google Maps to help you. You can use, if you have a different digital system that you use, if you want to use a paper map and you have access to a paper map, totally fine. Your information is still going to be the same. The distance between one place and another place is not any different, whether or not you're using a digital map or a paper map, but we're just going to use a digital map so that we can all see. So we're going to imagine that we're traveling from Sioux Lookout all the way to Charlottetown in PEI, and we are driving. So we're going to take this. So if I searched up Sioux Lookout to Charlottetown, we see this, it highlights in blue, the road pathway that we are going to take. It might give you more than one option. You could go the northern route, but we're going to go the southern route through Thunder Bay and then down to Sault Ste. Marie, through Sudbury, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, and then New Brunswick and Charlottetown. So we're going to imagine that we are a family of 4 going. So we have 2 adults and 2 kids who are 10 and 15. When you are doing this for yourself, you imagine your own family or whoever you want to take on your trip. So you get to decide in terms of planning for your trip. You decide. If you just want to go on the trip by yourself, then you just go on the trip by yourself. You plan for that. Totally fine. It doesn't matter to me how many people are going. You want to decide this for yourself. You do not have to do it for a family of 4 with 2 adults and 2 kids. You can do it with 1 parent and 6 kids. You can do it with 1 parent and 1 kid. You can do it with just by yourself. You can do it with just 2 adults. You can do it with 2 adults and 2 grandparents and 2 kids, whatever would make sense for you to travel in your life. You do you. Plan a trip for yourself. Even if you have 6 kids, if you want to just plan it for yourself to go on a trip by yourself, that's fine too. Totally. You do you. We're going to be driving there over 5 days for my practice. You decide, you follow the instructions that are in yours because we're not doing in your question. We're going to Calgary. So I'm walking you through the same idea, but we're going to PEI. So you're going to be doing the same sort of idea, but you're driving to Calgary and you decide how many days it's going to take you to get there. For our trip to PEI, to model this, we're going to drive there over 5 days. We're going to stay in Charlottetown for 4 days, and then we're going to drive back over 4 days. So drive back a little bit faster. So that is our plan for this modeling trip. Your trip for lesson 18 that you're going to do is going to be slightly different because you're driving Calgary with your family, with your crew, and you're going to do it in slightly different days. But that's written in your question. All right, so driving to Charlottetown, we have a plan. So you have this similar chart in your workbook, which I would encourage you to use the chart or to use to set yourself up something similar, just because it kind of organizes your information. So you're going to be planning the distance between, so you're going to be writing down the distance between the communities that you're driving to and where you're going to stop, how long it takes you to travel that distance. And then at the end, you're going to be including the daily distance traveled and the total number of hours traveled that day. So for you, you don't have all this time set up. I've set up mine. I planned that I'm going to drive from Sioux Lookout to Nipigon. That's where I'm going to stop my end of my day 1. Then end of day 2, I'm going to stop in Sault Ste. Marie. End of day 3, I'm going to stop in Ottawa. End of day 4, I'm going to stop in Edmundston, New Brunswick. And end of day 5, I'm going to stop in Charlottetown. But I need to figure out, I'm going to stop other places along the way to take breaks. So I need to plan this. Now, in order to plan this, we're going to go to, we're going to use our Google Maps. So I'm just opening my browser. I use Chrome. You don't have to use Chrome. Again, you don't have to use Google Maps. I'm just going to search up Google Maps and open it. And we're going to do this directions. We're going to click here. So a starting point, I'm starting in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. And my first day, I'm going to go to Nipigon, is what I planned. So you can choose to stop someplace, and then it can tell you, it's going to tell you where the distance. So I think I'm going to stop in Uppsala. Now I have planned this already. This is probably not going to take, it took me a little while to go through and figure out where was the best place to stop. So I put that in, that I'm starting in Sioux Lookout, I'm going to Uppsala, and then I'm going to Nipigon. Then here below, it gives you your full timeline. So it tells you that it's going to take you about 5 hours and 17 minutes and that it's 487 kilometers that you're driving. This also tells you that your destination is a different time zone because on the other side of Thunder Bay and further east is in Eastern time zone, whereas we are in Central time zone. So that is going to happen. And then if you click on the details, they give you directions, but they also tell you how you're going to, how far you're going to travel. So it tells you from Sioux Lookout to Uppsala. Here, it's 251 kilometers, which is about 2 hours and 42 minutes. So going from Sioux Lookout to Uppsala, that is the amount of time it's going to take to drive there. Then to go from Uppsala to Nipigon, if you scroll down, again, they give you the instructions of how to actually do it. That part we don't care about so much because we're not actually driving, we're just imagining. And they tell you that it's 236 kilometers, which is 2 hours and 34 minutes. So that's the information that we need. So if we go back to our chart, we're going to fill in. Okay, so Sioux Lookout, we're going to go to Uppsala, which is about 251 kilometers. And we're going to round, so our traveling time, we're going to say 2 hours and 40 minutes. I know that it said 2 hours and 42 minutes. We're just going to round to the nearest 5 minutes, or no, the nearest 15. What does it say? The nearest 5 minutes, I think. Your book tells you to round it to the nearest 5 minutes, I think, or the nearest 15 minutes. I can't quite remember. We're going to round to the nearest 5 minutes because, of course, travel time is never exactly what the internet says. So that's how we fill it in. We say Uppsala is going to be our first stop. We're going to break there. And this is how far the driving time is. And this is how long it's actually going to take. And then from Uppsala to Nipigon, we're going to fill in that was 236 kilometers, which is about 2 hours and 35 minutes. So those are the parts that we're going to do in that day. And that's how I found that information, was going on to Google Maps and finding it there. Then at the end of day 1, we're going to have traveled a total of 487 kilometers. We can add these together. We can see that that's 487 kilometers, but also remember that's what it told us on the full trip, which is about 5 hours and 15 minutes. You add these together, you get 5 hours and 15 minutes. So then that's day 1. So day 2, I decided that we were going to go to White River, and then I go Bay are the places that I'm going to stop on my way to Ste. Marie. So the same idea is you go here into your map, oops, and we're going to go back. And now you can just add your destination if you want, or you can delete the ones. If you don't need these ones, we can just start from fresh, it's fine. So we're starting in Nipigon. This is the tricky part, is that you got to remember where you're starting, Nipigon. And then I said I was going to go to White River first. As you can see, you can just start typing it in, and then it might tell you, you can then click on it, or you can type the whole thing in. And then Egoa Bay, Ontario. And you can see the map is showing you your plans is zooming out, traveling along with you. And then Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, not US. So we can see the total 6 hours and 16 minutes, 586 kilometers. If we go to our details, then it gives us a breakdown. From Nipigon to White River is 2 hours and 55 minutes, which is 72 kilometers. Then from White River to Egoa Bay was 1 hour and 48 minutes, which is 175 kilometers. And Egoa Bay to Sault Ste. Marie is an hour and a half, which is 139 kilometers. Again, you can plan this out what makes sense for you. You don't have to always drive the longest distance. You do you. Again, you make what makes sense for you. Maybe you just want to stop along this coast because it's beautiful. You want to stop and have a break along the North Shore because it's beautiful. Totally legitimate. That's fine. So then you can see you fill out the kilometers and the hours based on that information. Your hours, sometimes they come up a little bit different depending on what time of the day you're searching. It's totally fine. Put in what makes sense. Your kilometers should still be the same. And then at the end of the day, you add up your total kilometers and you add up your total hours and minutes, and then you see how much you've driven, how far you've driven, and how long you've driven in that day. And then you continue. So then we're going to go to Ottawa from Sault Ste. Marie on day 3 to Ottawa. We're going to stop in Sudbury, Ontario, and Deep River, Ontario. Again, I've found this information the exact same way that we just did it. To save time, I'm not going to show you how to do it for each individual day because we have lots to do, but you're doing the same process. Day 3 we stopped in Ottawa. On day 4, we are going to Edmundston, and we are ready to just get there. So we're having a long driving day. And we're not stopping as much, which is just what I decided. You don't have to stop 3 times. You can decide what you want to do. And then on day 4, we stopped in Edmundston. So day 5, we start in Edmundston, and we are driving to Charlottetown and PI, stopping in Fredericton and Moncton, and driving 613 kilometers, which is 6 hours and 25 minutes. So I tried to sort of break it up roughly evenly. You can do that the same. As you can see, I have some, like day 3 is a pretty long day of driving. Maybe I would have wanted to not do that way. You can decide, again, what makes sense for your trip. Then to plan your trip back, remember I said that I said 4 days, but I planned it only for 3 days. So we're going to say we're going back over 3 days. We're just trying to get home. And so the same idea, we're starting in Charlottetown, and I said that we're driving to Montreal. So we're stopping in Fredericton and Rivière-du-Loup in Quebec, and then driving all the way to Montreal. So this is a much longer day, 11 hours and 40 minutes. We're ready to get home. So we're driving a longer day. And then from Montreal, we're going to drive to Batchewana Bay, which is a 12-hour day in 20 minutes. Again, doing this with a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old is possible. Doing with a 3-year-old, not possible, realistically. And then driving to Sioux Lookout, we're going to go to Marathon, then Upsala, and then end in Sioux Lookout, which is another 10 hours and 50 minutes. So driving there, we took kind of a leisurely pace. Driving back, we were ready just to be back home. So we had much longer days, which is fine. And if you didn't want to do that, that is fine too. You decide what makes the most sense. but that's how you plan the driving, is that you want to write down the distance between and then how long it takes, and then track how much it is for each individual day so that you have a general idea. All right, so then we want to think about, well, what is the total distance to drive from Sioux Lookout to Charlottetown and back? So we need all of those numbers. So we're going to go back and we're going to see that it is all of these numbers. And we're going to have to track that it is. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to add them as we go instead of writing them all down. So we had 487 on our first day, plus 586, plus 793, plus 748, plus 613. Okay, so that is driving there. So that, oops. And then driving back, we have plus 1,164 on the first day back. They have plus 1,055 plus 1,016 is equal to a total of 6,462 kilometers of driving time. So the total distance from Sioux Lookout to Charlottetown and back was 6,462 kilometers. So you're adding up. That's why you need to know how much kilometers you did each day to figure out how much the whole trip is. So then fuel consumption, what is the average cost of gas? So here we're imagining that we're driving this Chevrolet Trailblazer that has a fuel economy of 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers. So we need to figure out how much gas we used and then how much we're going to spend on gas. So we traveled 6,462 kilometers. So times 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers. So to do that calculation, we are going to do that. So we're figuring out how much gas we are actually consuming. Oops. So 491.1 liters is how much for just traveling, the driving to there and back, we're going to need 491.1 liters. So then how much can we actually expect to spend on gas? So here are some rough, depending on which province you're in, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to average those together to see why are you. So we're not going to calculate it in terms of how many kilometers are in this province and how many kilometers in that province. We're just going to do a rough estimation because that is fine. So to average them out, we add them all together, and then we're going to divide them by 4 because we have 4 different provinces. So on average, it's $1.51 per liter. So that means that we can expect to spend, because we know that we had 491.1 liters times $1.51 per liter. So we're going to times those two together to figure out how much we're actually going to spend approximately on gas for driving. So $750.62 is what we're going to need to spend on gas, approximately. So then the next thing that we need to figure out is accommodation. So again, you're going to search this up online. So you need to figure out accommodation on your way to PEI, accommodation when you're in PEI, and accommodation when you're driving back. So I have the places listed here of where I'm going to stop. So that I wrote down, and then I have to find a place that I'm actually going to stay. Again, to save time, I've looked this up already. So I've said in Nipigon, I'm going to stay at the Timberwolf Inn, which is about $125 per night. And then we have to calculate taxes. Depending on the province that we're in, it's different. This you might need to look up again. I have it written down on my thing, on my page, but you're probably gonna have to look this up to make sure that you're using the right taxes. So for Nipigon, I'm going to, figure out the taxes, I'm going to do 125, and it's in Ontario. So that means that it is times 13%, which is 0.13, which is equal to $16.25. So that means my total cost for staying in Nipigon, because I'm just having one room for one night, is going to be $125 plus $16.25, which is $141.25. So that's how much it costs to stay in Nipigon. So then in Sault Ste. Marie, we're going to stay the Days Inn, which is $104 a night. So 104. We're still in Ontario, so we're going to do by 13%. 104 times 13% is $13.52. So the total cost for that night is 104 plus $13.52, which is equal to $117.52. In Ottawa, we're staying at the Holiday Inn, which is at $150 a night. Depending on where you stay, it's going to be, the prices are different. So $150, we are still in Ontario. Ontario is huge. So we're still 13% is our tax. So 150 times 13% is $19.50. So the total cost of that night is $169.50. And then in Edmundston, New Brunswick, we're staying in the Travelodge, which is $129 a night. Now Edmundston is in New Brunswick. So we need to look at, well, New Brunswick, the tax is 15% HST. So that means we're doing 129 times 0.15. So you have to be paying attention to the taxes because you're at different, the provinces are different. So it's $19.35 in tax there. So 129 plus $19.35. Well, I'm just going to say that this is close to $20. So then that would be $149. So to go down, it's going to be $148.35. And that's the accommodations that it would be cost for us to travel to PEI. Then if we are actually, how long we're staying PEI, well, we're staying for 4 nights and we need to plan. So we need to find a place. So this one I didn't actually find. So I just thought we'd practice. So we're just going to search online. We're going to say Charlottetown. Hotel. So that's just how I look it up. And then we can look and we can see, obviously, if you were actually staying there, you would go and look into it in terms of where it is, where you actually want to stay, what your budget is. I'm going to pick the Holiday Inn for $134 just because. So then we write down the place, Holiday Inn. And the cost was $134 per night. So that means because we're staying there for 4 nights, right? We're staying in PEI for 4 nights. So that means that we have to do 4 times 134 for our total, for our cost. So because we're staying there for 4 nights, so 536. So for the tax, we need to do 536 because we're staying there for 4 nights times we're in PEI. So the tax is 10% plus the tax of the GST, right? Because if we don't have HST, we have to pay GST too. So we pay 5% plus 10% PST. So that's 15%. So you need to remember to do both GST and PST. So we're going to do 536 times 0.15. I just added them together to save time. So that's $80.40. So the total cost is $536 plus $80.40. So that's going to be $616.40 to stay in PEI. And then you need to make the accommodations on the way back. So in Montreal and Batchewana Bay, we don't have time to calculate the taxes, but it's the same idea. Calculate the taxes and pay attention if you're in Quebec. Quebec is 7.5% plus GST because it's not HST. And then Batchewana Bay is Ontario, so it's just HST. So then for food, so we've now calculated how much it's going to cost us in gas, how much it's going to cost us for where we're going to stay. For food, we are having an estimate of $25 per day per person. That includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and any snacks. You know if that's reasonable or not, but we have 4 people times 25. So that's $100 a day in total. And then how many days did we do? So we had 5 days travel plus 4 days in PEI plus 3 days back. So 5 plus 4 is 9 plus 3 is 12. So 12 days times $100 per day is equal to $1,200. So that's how much you're going to spend on food. Approximately. Remember, we're estimating. And then how much are you going to spend on entertainment and souvenirs? So I've picked a few places in PEI to figure out to include this in. In Calgary, they give you, in your question, they give you some places that you're going to go. So you can see we're going to go on a ghost tour in PEI, which is $20 per adult and $10 per kid. So that means that we're going to do 20 times 2 plus 10 times 2 for the ghost tour. So 20 times 2 is 40 plus 10 times 2 is another 20. So that's $60 to go on the ghost tour. Then we're going to go to Anne of Green Gables, which is in PEI from the book Anne of Green Gables. And we can see that the costs for adults are $8.50. For youth 13 and older is $5, and kids under that age are free. So remember that we had, I'm just putting Anne for short. So adults, $8.50 times 2 for 2 adults, plus we have a 15-year-old, so that's $5, plus we have a 10-year-old, so that's $0. So $8.50 times 2, well, $8 times 2 is 16, so plus 50 cents plus 50 cents is 17, plus 17 plus $5 is going to be 23, plus 0 is 0, or is 23, sorry. And then we're going to buy 2 souvenirs. The 10-year-old wants a plush lobster, so $7.99. plus the 15-year-old wants a, well, they want the lobster gummies, but those are sold out. So they're gonna go with the Lupin Sun Catcher, which is $15.99 for the souvenirs. So this is $15.99 is basically $16, $7.99 is basically $8. So that's basically $24. So technically it would be $23.98. But then we have to remember about tax too, right? So then we would add 60 plus 23 plus 23.98 plus 10% PST and 5% GST. So you need to calculate all of those. Again, we are running out of time, so we're not going to do that, but you would calculate all of that to figure out the total for your entertainment. And then now you need to list all of your costs. So you're going to go back and you're going to figure out how much costs in your gasoline there and back. So you're going to go back to your page and say, okay, my total gas was $750.62. So I'm going to write that down, $750.62. Now the accommodations on the road. So on the way there, my accommodations, and we have to add it up, which we didn't do. We don't have time to. So it's like 150, we're going to estimate 150, 120. So that's 270, 170. So that's going to be 440 plus 150 is going to be 440 plus 150 is going to be 590. And we're just estimating. So I'm going to say $590 on the way there. And on the way back, we didn't actually calculate that. So we're going to say it's going to be another $300. You're actually going to calculate it. I'm estimating right now. Then the accommodations in Charlottetown was $616.40. Then your meals for the whole trip, I remember that that was $12,000. You can go back and look it up. And then entertainment and souvenirs. We didn't actually end up calculating it, but again, we can estimate. So 60 plus 23, we're going to just say 80 plus 25. So that's 105. So 15% of 105 is, well, 10% of 105 is $10.50, and half of that is $5.25. So that's $15.75. So we'll say $16. So that's going to be $121 rough estimation. Sorry that I have to go through this fast. And so then you're going to add up in total what that's going to be. So 750 plus 300 is 1,050 plus, I'm going to round this to say 600. And so that's 1,650 plus, I'm going to round this to 600 again. So that's 2,250 plus food, which is going to be 3,450 plus souvenirs. So we're at 3,450. So plus 120 is going to be 3,570. Again, rough estimation in my head. I may have made a mistake. I may have lost something along the way. You're going to do this slower because you're not against the clock. So the total trip's going to be about $3,570. Then you need to answer the questions. Can you afford the trip? Again, you look at you. You understand your life. If you can have $3,570 to spend on a almost 2-week-long trip, what could you do differently to make it cheaper? Reflect on that too. And then that is the trip. That's what you need to do for lesson 18. So let's quickly consolidate and go over what we've talked about. So for planning a trip, we talked about the gas, where you need to calculate the travel distance, and then also the fuel consumption and the fuel cost. We calculate the accommodations and not to forget the tax for the specific locations. It's going to be different depending on which province you are in. We talked about meals and how you can make a sort of a daily rate kind of plan to make sort of an estimation. Some days you might spend a little bit more on food. Some days you might spend a little bit less on food. But having a daily rate kind of plan makes it a little bit easier. And then with entertainment, you want to include both admission costs and souvenirs, because if you're going on a trip, you're probably going to buy things. So just good to give yourself a little bit of a budget. So hopefully you're comfortable now using Google Maps to plan a trip, and you can determine the distance involved in the travel, making a road trip. And then you can also calculate the costs of accommodation, fuel, food, and entertainment while you're vacationing. All of these things are going to be part of that you need to budget to add in. Can feel like, oh, we can just do that. But once you actually start calculating it out, it ends up being like $3,500 is a lot of money to spend on 2 weeks. All right, so sorry that I had to rush again through the end of it there. It does take a long, so you're gonna probably need more than an hour to plan to do this lesson. As you can see, it took me longer than an hour, and I already had stuff prepped and I had to race through the end of it. I don't want you to race. I want you to spend your time so that you make sure that you don't forget anything. So please give yourself some time. If you have any questions that you want to ask about specifically about this lesson or about any of the parts of planning, please feel free to reach out always. I'm here, happy to help. You can call toll free at 1-800-667-3703 or the local number at 807-737-1488. My extension is 2209. Send me an email at bronwyn.slate, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE at nnec.on.ca. You can reach out to me at Facebook, where my name is B Slate Wahsa. And also remember, this lesson, as well as all of our lessons, are up on YouTube at B Slate Wahsa under the playlist MEL3E. So you can find everything from our course so far. If you want to connect with me directly and give me a call between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, that's when I'm in the office. Though remember, I teach from 9 to 11, so that's not a good time to try to get a hold of me. I hope this lesson was useful for you. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely day. Bogwitch.